Do you want to learn Chinese, but are afraid that it is beyond your reach? Maybe you're like me and have tried some of the Chinese training materials only to find that you're totally lost? That was my story. Before taking a trip to China, I tried to learn Chinese. First, I took a quick trip to the bookstore, leafed through all of the materials, and tried to find something that seemed suitable for me. After more than an hour, I finally selected a program that had audio as well as text. Pleased to find something that would help me learn Chinese, I headed home. And that's when my trouble began. I put the audio on, only to hear minutes upon end of gibberish. I mean, they explained what was being said, but I simply could not follow what was going on. They asked you to repeat what was being said, and then to say it on your own, but I just couldn't get my voice to sound anything like what was playing. So then I stopped it and replayed the first phrase over and over and over and over again until finally I still sounded nothing like the audio. It was so incredibly frustrating. How were they making those sounds with their voices? What were those sounds? And how come I couldn't get my voice to repeat it like that? What in the world is going on? Here I had already spent several hours listening and trying to repeat phrases for 2 days, and I was getting nowhere. What made it worse was that after 2 weeks, it wasn't any better, even after reading the text. Oh yeah, the text was in English, but I had no clue what they were talking about, and it was so boring that I felt like I was eating the textbook instead of reading it. After sharing my exasperation with some friends who travel abroad a lot, they encouraged me to wait until I arrived in China to learn Chinese. They insisted that way my tones would be much better, and I wouldn't run the risk of learning to speak incorrectly. Really? Are you serious? I mean, really? I'm supposed to arrive in China, not know a lick of Chinese, and be able to get around? Well, okay then. At least for now, it sure saved me the headache of listening to nonsense for hours that I couldn't repeat. Well, let's see. If I arrive in China, but can't say anything, what would be the 1 or 2 words that I should definitely learn? So I set out thinking about that and decided that I would learn those 1 or 2 words from someone I met who spoke Chinese. Maybe they could make it easier for me. So it just so happened that on my way out from a baseball game at the stadium, I met someone and asked if they spoke any Chinese. Since they did, I immediately asked them if they could teach me to say restroom, since I would be going to China in a few months. Well, at first they came up with something, but it was just too long for me to say. I just couldn't wrap my head around the sounds they wanted me to say, and definitely couldn't repeat them back. So, after a moment, they decided to teach me a much simpler version, which I later found out was simply toilet. But the interesting thing is that while in the process of teaching me, they seemed to motion with their hands about how my voice should sound. I didn't quite get it, but all I know is that sometimes they smiled and nodded in approval, and other times they shook their head no. Well, at any rate, I was pretty pleased to have learned 1 of the words I was looking for. Now just 1 more to go. This time I returned to my audio and text, just to see if any of it seemed to make any more sense after at least learning 1 word. And you know what? It became clearer to me about the explanations they had about different tones or pitches that you use when you're speaking. but it was nowhere near the kind of explanation I needed. I needed to know that there were four main tones, and that when you say them, you should sound like you're singing. La 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 la. Okay, not that bad. But the first tone is long and flat. Like when you go to the dentist or the doctor. And the second is the rising tone. Kind of like when you say, huh? Huh? The third is the craziest tone. It's a falling and rising tone at the same time. Kind of like when you say, oh, in great disappointment or frustration. The fourth is the falling tone. It's like when you breathe a great sigh of relief. Ah. Well, then I continued on my quest to learn the next word. Join me for part 2 of the journey.